All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We want to do a quick video on Maxx C because this is a big topic of discussion in the community right now. A lot of people are talking about it because Crossout Designator, which has been legal in the OCG for a very long time now, is finally coming to the TCG. And the OCG has had both Maxx C at 3 and Crossout Designator for a long time. They play max copies of both. I feel like I think every decklist I've seen pretty much plays Maxx C in the OCG, and we had it over in the TCG for a very long time as well. I'm not really sure why Konami banned it, because it seems like the second they banned it, then Ash Blossom came out and a bunch of other hand traps came out. I almost want to say that maybe the incentive for banning it at the time was to sell new hand traps, although we would have just played both. But it's banned now, and it's been banned, I feel like, since like 2017 or 2018. And the game has gotten progressively more ignorant since then. It's gotten so heavy on the special summons. A lot of games are turn 1 based. People build their decks for turn 2, like you saw with Ryan Levine building his Spiral deck in that format to go turn 2. So you just played a ton of hand traps, let your opponent try to pop off, you stop them, and then you kill them on turn 2, as opposed to trying to pop off turn 1 and being stopped by opposing hand traps and then you dying.
Yep.
So Maxx C has a lot of implications. I just want to go through some of the things about it. So, I mean, everyone, I assume, knows what this card does, but it can be discarded on either player's turn, and it can be discarded at any time. So it's unlike a lot of other hand traps in that regard, because most hand traps have a specific window when you can use them, like drawing Lockbird, your opponent has to search the deck. Ash Blossom, obviously your opponent has to fulfill one of the requirements listed on Ash Blossom before you can activate it. And pretty much every other hand trap, you have to do something. I think Maxx C and Veiler are the two easiest to activate because you can kind of just use them. But Maxx C you can use on either player's turn. And way back in the day, like Yang Zing 2014, it was kind of cool because you can cause certain things to miss timing on purpose. So if you go like summon a monster, chain Maxx C, and then chain Torrential Tribute, you can, like, you know, clean up a whole board of like 5 Yang Zing monsters, and none of them can activate their effect now because the last thing that's resolving on that chain is actually the Maxx C. That's just an example. Like, obviously that doesn't really come up very often, but I just want to give you an example of something that you could do long ago when cards did miss timing. I don't really know if anything misses timing nowadays, but
that is one of those really cool effects. That's one of those cool plays where a lot of players would never even think of doing stuff like that. You know what I mean?
I've actually done it at locals. That's the only reason I brought it up, because we had a lot of Yang Zing players when that pack first came out that had them in it. People wanted to play the deck, and I remember saying that the biggest problem with this deck is obviously that they can miss timing for whatever reason. So I would be losing to the deck sometimes. They'd have like 4 monsters on the field, and honestly, like one bad torrential and just like the game, or one bad like Mirror Force, like Maxx C chain Mirror Force to your attack, all your shit dies.
Damn.
And like none of them get effect. And while you could also argue, well, why wouldn't you just Maxx C them when they activate all their effects? Like, you could do that too. It just depends on the situation. Like, everything is situational.
Yeah,
it's just like, do I want them to get any effects, or do I want to draw a bunch of cards? Like, you can do whatever one you want.
It's another tool in the toolbox.
Yeah, it's just a play. It's just a play that you have. But people are talking about this because of Crossout Designator. So I'm going to read off Crossout Designator's effect, because this card is crack. And I haven't played in a while, but I've been watching the format currently for a while. And I don't know if this card is good or bad for the game. It seems like the consensus is that it's bad for the game when I like look at the comments that other top players made about it, because it kind of forces you and everyone else to play a ton of hand traps. But what it does is you declare a card name and you banish one card from your deck, and until the end of the turn, effects with that card's name are negated. So when your opponent tries to effect Veiler you, or Ash Blossom you, or Droll and Lockbird you, or Maxx C you, or really do anything, if you played that card in your deck as well, you can chain Crossout Designator because it's a fucking quick play, and you can negate the effect of whatever hand trap they tried to use on you. So it's basically another version of Call by the Grave, but probably a lot better because it can hit more cards, I would think, and has more implications overall. Call by the Grave, Kenny, I don't know if you know what that one is, but so Call by the Grave says, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do, until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. So it kind of has the same implication as Crossout Designator in most cases. When your opponent goes, discard Maxx C to your special summon, you go, chain Call by the Grave, banish the Maxx C that you just discarded to the grave, and now it just doesn't do anything because you discard it for cost. So this is Called by the Grave on crack. It's going to be at 3 when it first comes out because Konami wants to sell these fucking tins. I'm not really sure what else comes in the tins, but this is going to sell the tins by itself. Like this one card has been so anticipated
Everybody's
by
gonna
TCG
buy
players.
3 tins. Like
They're going to buy. So I don't think it's like that. I don't think that this is a card. It's not like the tins when me and you played where you were guaranteed certain things.
wait, what?
I think that the way the tins work now, and people can correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the tins have packs in them. And in those packs, you have a chance of getting a Crossout Designator. I don't know if you actually are guaranteed it. I could be wrong about that.
That's crazy.
I could be wrong.
Because back in the day, I'll use Jinzo as an example. Everybody used to call it Tinzo. You'd buy the tin, you'd get Tinzo. He's like the cover of the tin, but then you'd also get like 5 random packs.
Yeah. I don't know if you actually get it from just buying the tin. I feel like a lot of the reprints that they put in tins now are not guaranteed. And I think that's like one of the changes that happened when Yu-Gi-Oh! Years ago. But I never really bought product. I kind of just buy singles because I've always been just competitive. We're probably like the worst people when it comes to buying product. We don't really buy product, but
yeah.
So in theory, right, Maxx C, if it does come back, a lot of people are arguing: should it be at 3? Should it be at 2? Should it be at 1? Or should it just stay banned? And most people say 3 or 0, right? Because if it's at 3, then everyone accepts that it's a part of the format and everyone builds their deck around it. And when I say build their deck around it, that means like you play more defensive cards in general, because if you get stopped by Maxx C, the best thing to do after that is to kind of set traps. And be more defensive. If a card like Maxx C was at 1, I don't think it's ever been at 1 per deck. But if it is at 1 per deck, you don't build around something that's at 1 per deck. You just don't do that. We haven't done shit like that since the Stone Ages, like GOAT format, where you played a bunch of light and darks for just BLS, basically. We're far past that mindset of building for 1 card. That's just not correct. So if it's at 1, it's really cancerous, in my opinion. I'm just going to say it. Because then it's just like a sacky ass card that, they happen to have that 1 Maxx C, which is really annoying.
Yeah.
But if it's at 3, it's expected. Out of a 5-card hand, they have whatever chance it is to open it. So it's like, all right, he had the Maxx C. It's not that big of a deal because you probably are playing a deck that can somewhat deal with getting Maxx C on turn 1. It would be normal. You wouldn't say that your opponent sacked you by Maxx C'ing you.
Yeah. Something that I don't like about Crossout Designator is that, to me, it feels like it turns your whole deck. Like, your whole deck now does 2 things. I'm either going to... I don't know, it's just, like, weird. I'm either going to use my Maxx C to Maxx C your play, or I'm going to designate and kill my Maxx C to kill you killing my play. You know what I mean? Like,
it creates a really aggressive environment, because basically, you're right. It turns the game into trying to just force through your play so damn hard.
Yeah.
And that's the issue with that is the plays that people are forcing through end the game basically on turn 1. Like when people get their board set up, the shit that they end on, like Dragoon and a bunch of other things that negate, or like just a bunch of boss monsters that have ridiculous effects, generate a ridiculous amount of advantage, Herald of Perfection and Dragoon and the Dragon Link monster, Savage Dragon, all that stuff, like all of these monsters that like totally awesome in the Pran Kids deck, and Omen in the other deck, like the Tri Brigade deck. All of these cards that they summon on turn 1, Appaloosa and stuff, it basically makes it where if you don't stop me, I win on turn 1. So you're forced to play cards like Maxx C and Hand Traps so that your opponent can't set up those boards, and cards like Crossout Designator force those boards through, and makes the game just like, who can combo unopposed, right? Because that's like the whole idea of this card is like, I want to combo unopposed.
Yeah, that's what Designator is just like, no, like, I'm going all the way. Like, I'm pushing through.
I'm going all in. And a lot of these decks, the combos are only 1 or 2 cards. Like some of them are literally 1 card, like Pran Kids, and then some of them are 2 cards. Like the one Phantom Knight deck, just throwing it out there because I really like that deck. But it's like any 2-3 stars in a deck. I was looking at Bobby Kenny's deck profile for him topping the YCS. Any 2-3 stars, I'm including the worst 2-3 stars, ends on like Dragoon, Appaloosa, a Fogblade Search, a graveyard full of Phantom Knight cards that you can use on your next turn, like 4 cards in hand, and another Link monster or something like that. Like it just ends on so much that there's no way your opponent is really going to overcome the amount of advantage you have. And even if they did, you have such a strong setup. Now, the counter argument about Maxx C is that when Maxx C is at 3, your opponent does combo off. It's really, really bad when they have Maxx C on top of it. So they like it only takes 1 or 2 cards to combo, right? So then it's like they could have Maxx C as one of their third, fourth, or fifth cards after the combo. And now what happens is they've set up an ignorant board. In normal games, you can like try to break the board, and if you get through, even if you get through some hand traps, like okay, the game is simplified. I broke their board. Now like they have to deal with what I have set up. If they Maxx C you though, and you don't stop that Maxx C and you do break their board, you kind of just lose anyway because you've given your opponent so many cards theoretically.
Not only have you given them cards, the scariest thing about Maxx C, and I think what makes it really degenerate in this format versus back in the day, is that there's 100 hand traps in the game. So when you Maxx C, you're drawing into more hand traps. I'm drawing into more things to stop you. Like,
yeah, that's actually true.
Back in the day, you just draw in the Gores and Tragodia,
and Veiler. That was it.
And Veiler, like, and they're not completely stopping your opponent.
No.
So, but now when you play Maxx C, not only if they continue their push, not only am I drawing cards so that if they don't just kill me right now, I have my hand set up. I might be drawing more hand traps to then just stop their setup again. So
yeah, it's really toxic. Yeah, there's a crazy number of hand traps now, and hand traps now they stop all types of shit, like graveyard effect,
they do whatever they want.
Yeah, like there's a hand trap for everything now. The game is not at all how it was when Maxx C was first released and used in 2011. Like that's when it was first started to see popular play.
Yeah, back in the day, I remember like Maxx C, I actually kind of liked as a card back in the day because you would play it and it didn't actually stop your play. If I could go for a game, I could still just kill you.
Yep. That I do like that about it. It creates decisions.
Yes. So, I really liked Maxx C back in the day, but I think now, not that I play anymore, but I think with what I know about the game and the absolute uprise in hand traps, I think Maxx C, and then in addition to that, this Crossout Designator, I think is pretty degenerate.
Yeah, both of these cards are scary because it's not, like you said, it's not like how it was in 2011 to like 2015 or whatever, where you would Maxx C someone and they could stop and you don't think you're going to die next turn when you stop from getting Maxx C. Like you give them the one draw so they go even and you end your turn. You don't expect to die back in the day. Like most decks didn't straight up kill you after that happened. But now it's honestly with access code talker and Dragoon and all this other shit, it's not even that crazy for your opponent to just be like, I'm just going to kill you now. Like you can't like you can't.
I Maxx C'd you, you stopped your play, you didn't kill me, and so now you're dead.
Yeah, it's like catch-22. Also, now that Nibiru is involved, because we didn't say it, but like Nibiru is another hand trap, right? So let's say you said, fuck it, I'm going to keep on playing into, like you Maxx C, I'm going to keep on.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, like you keep on playing and then they're like, draw. Okay, you summon 5 times. Nibiru you. So now you have actually no chance of killing me this turn. I've drawn all these fucking cards. You probably gave me the Nibiru. And then I'm also just going to kill you. It just, I don't know. It's kind of nasty. And also, I guess people will be playing at least one Nibiru in their deck too, so that way if someone tried
why
to
not,
Nibiru,
right?
Like, yeah, you just Crossout Designator, you get rid of the Nibiru in your deck.
Let me ask this. Going. I don't know if you know this, but based on the OCG deck list maybe you've seen, does playing all of these hand traps make your combos more bricky? I would imagine it makes it harder to go off.
Yes, it does. So theoretically, and this is something that I saw Jeff Jones bring up. I almost want to find his exact quote, but Jeff was saying something, I'm going to paraphrase here. He was saying something along the lines of, you're kind of forced to play it, and decks already have limited space, and decks kind of build themselves already. So the way Yu-Gi-Oh! Is now, unlike GOAT format, or like older formats where decks were a combination of a bunch of just good cards, and you could build them however you wanted, and they could be as good or bad as you made it. Now decks are mostly just themes, like there's X-Sabers, there's like Glad Beast, like it became that, like Light Sworn, like the decks, they essentially, you play all of the main cards in the theme that are good and you leave out all the trash ones, and the deck just builds itself from there. Like, and then you just put in staples, like, oh, Pot of Duality or Pot of Prosperity or whatever the fuck.
Whatever the current pot is. Whatever the current pot of card is.
Yep, and then you fill it with some defensive cards. And I said there's not really much to like deck building, honestly, right now at all. Like all the deck lists, for the most part, they look super similar. So when you introduce a card like Crossout Designator, everyone is kind of forced to be competitive. You're kind of forced to play Crossout Designator, but then to also play at least one of all the hand traps. That way you can go against all the hand traps that your opponent might have when you're playing the game.
Yeah.
So in Japan, they definitely do play one of like all the main hand traps. Like that is a thing, and I do imagine that it does create some less than ideal hands where you draw like, I don't know, a bunch of shitty hand traps. And like, where's my combo pieces? Like I drew double Crossout Designator, I don't know, Veiler and something. And it's just like, all right, this is like
Some
a trash
bullshit,
hand because I have all these cards in it that just don't do anything.
It's weird. I don't know. I'm a boomer, but I feel like it's a weird state Yu-Gi-Oh's in, and I'm sure people much better than me can maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but the game is already, as you've said multiple times, and I've watched people play, it's already in a state where it's, turn 1 kill, turn 2 kill, maybe turn 3 kill.
Games don't last long.
Making our hand, like, adding this to the format without changing how the format functions at its core, kind of just makes it worse. Yeah, without slowing it down, because now what you've done is we still have a turn 1 kill format, but now the decks are more bricky. So now I have more of a chance to, like, draw, okay, I bricked. Now I lose regardless if I won the die roll, because I just bricked, and it's like, okay.
The interesting thing is, decks are already doing that now, too. Like, a lot of decks play so many hand traps. Like, I was looking at the Tri-Brigade decks now, and a lot of them play like 12 or 15 hand traps. Like, they play 3 Ash Blossom and, like, 3 Nibiru or something, and 3 Impermanence, and 3 of Ghost Bell, and, like, 3 of something. There's just so many hand traps. Like, 3 Veiler, whatever. I don't know all exact hand traps, but they play, like, literally, like, 12 of them.
12 to 15.
So if you imagine playing 12 of something, like, obviously...
yeah, you're open with it.
There's a chance that you're going to open with too much of it, which is annoying. But the good thing is, on the contrary, you don't need a lot to combo off nowadays. You don't need these. You don't need 3 cards.
Like you said, Prank Kids goes off one card. One
card combo. And Ed explained this in our podcast episode. Yeah. The way I feel about it just creates more chaos. Like I feel like the game is already chaotic. It's very chaotic in my opinion right now. And introducing Maxx C to the format introduced more chaos, and then introducing Crossout Designator creates even more chaos. I don't really know how you deck build around having such strong combos, such strong hand traps, and then limited space to actually build your deck. But we'll see how it plays out. I mean, maybe for all I know, this is going to make the game somehow more skillful. I personally, and this is a very anecdotal thing, but I personally love Maxx C from the olden days because the card has given me so many tops. I was talking to my one friend earlier today about this. I said, this is like results oriented as fuck, but a lot of events that I topped were me, like, everyone played 3 Maxx C or whatever, but me maxing my opponents and them either stopping when they shouldn't have or not stopping when they should have.
Yep, they either go like fuck it, and they'll like keep playing and let you draw. And then you're like, okay, and like they don't kill you. And it's the easiest. Those are the easiest wins I've ever gotten. I've gotten so many of them at YCSs. Like I don't know if people are like, fuck it, I'm already here. Like this is my chance to beat this guy. Like I'm just gonna go all in. And I'm just like, yep, I'm Maxx C, and then they don't kill me or they don't. For whatever reason, I don't die, and then I just win. And it's like a super easy win because I'm not even trading. Like I can 1-for-1 trade with all of your cards, but I have so many more cards than you that even if I 1-for-1 trade all 6 of yours away, like I still have like +5 or 4 or something. That's the cool thing about Maxx C is from the gate, it's already like I'm already getting a card, right?
Yeah.
Like, Maxx C replaces itself, and then from there it's just nothing but plus.
Yep. And there was always like controversy, like, oh, like should you Maxx C if your opponent summons tour guide? Do you Maxx C there? And if you Maxx C them, then they just get Sangan. And it's like, okay. The same thing with Shine Ball. It was like, if your opponent pays 500 for Shine Ball, do you Maxx C the first Shine Ball, or do you wait until they pay 500 the second time? Because once they pay 500 the second time, there's 2 Shine Balls out in the field, and they either go into Gachi and give you a +1, so that will be a second special summon on your Maxx C, so you get to draw an additional card, or they stop with both Shine Balls, and then you can clean up both Shine Balls with something as simple as going Summon Tour Guide, get your Sangan, attack. And then now Venus can never go into Gachi or any rank 2 monster because you cleared the Shine Balls.
Yeah.
So it's like that was like the most technical that it got back then.
Like that's now, cool. Like shit like that's really cool.
Exactly.
And having those thought webs. Yeah.
Now I was like, I'm not trying to hear you summon Venus and you pay 500. I'm just fucking maxing you. I want you to stop.
Frazier's like, I'm chilling this out. I'm getting my card now.
Yeah, I'm also an asshole, so I kind of want you to have a shine ball in your hand. Like I don't got time. Like I need to draw my better cards because I don't want to just be holding a hand trap anyway and whatever. So I'm just like, yep,
Yeah, yeah.
like Maxx C, I'll replace it, and then you can do whatever you want. Like so if you want to summon another shine ball, and if something got you, and give me like a +2 for some strange reason, which has actually happened. Then be my guest. If you want to stop on the one shine ball in the Venus and then say I'm going to draw another Venus, and then that Venus is going to summon 2 shine balls, which very rarely did happen.
You're giving yourself and your deck a lot of credit.
Yeah, like by all means, draw your second Venus and hit me with that. But yeah, there's a lot of chaos in the game right now. I personally love Maxx C because of what it's done for me, but I don't think that is necessarily good for the game. And I also don't play enough now to really know how I would feel about it. Like I would need to see how games actually play out with 3 Maxx C and 3 Crossout Designators in decks. Like how the OCG is. Like literally, how does the OCG? I don't watch OCG duels, but I would like to watch OCG, I don't know, top 4 play out like both those games, both those rounds.
So would you say Maxx C is still better than is it like the best hand trap?
Probably.
Still, yeah.
It is actually, I mean, so the other hand, like Ash Blossom is extremely good, don't get me wrong, and Gamma is also really good. Gamma I've seen pretty much win games. Gamma is a hand trap, it's a psychic. When your opponent activates a monster effect and you have no cards on the field, I don't know if maybe it's no monsters, but basically when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can activate it from your hand, so it's a hand trap, and it summons a 6-star vanilla monster from the hand, deck, or graveyard, and they both come out on the field. So Gamma is I believe it's a 2-star psychic tuner, and the other thing is a 6-star monster. Now what's broken about this is, let's say I'm playing my turn, and I go activate reinforcement of the army, and you go chain Ash Blossom, negate reinforcement of the army. I go chain Gamma, negate your Ash Blossom, summon the 6-star guy, summon the 2-star tuner, synchro summon for Omega or any A-star, but most of the time it's Omega. Omega then can banish himself and banish a card out of your opponent's hand until your next standby phase. So like they lost Ash Blossom and they lost a random card out of their hand from Omega. So they're starting the game off with 4 cards. You got a level 8 synchro that's going to come back, and not only that, your reinforcement army is going through because you fucking negated the Ash Blossom with Gamma's effect. So it's every time I've seen that interaction, it has been absolute game. I say all of this to say though, Maxx C is probably the hand trap with the most FTKs under its belt. Like when I think about cards that have absolutely made somebody scoop, Maxx C is probably the hand trap that has the absolute most game wins. Like one card, you don't even know what my hand is, but you just assume like I got the nuts. And I'm Maxx C, you're just like fuck, like the game's over. Like some people just like they're like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to come back from that. Woo. Yeah,
ain't that some shit.
So I don't know. I really hope that if they do bring it back, that they at least put it at 3. Don't do some dumb shit and put it at 1, because then it's just obnoxious. And also don't put it at, I hate like two semi-limited is such a bullshit number of cards that you can play. Like playing 2 of something is so dumb. Like just stop.
Just
3
stop.
Or just keep it banned. Like I hate the whole 2 of, like there's 2 of shouldn't even exist. And 1 of is a fucking meme.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about Maxx C and Crossout Designator. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I wonder if people will play even if it's at 3, if some like probably not. I was going to say maybe if like the hyper aggressive decks that don't give a fuck, they'll only play 1 Maxx C just because they just want it so that they can push their playthrough with Crossout Designator. So they play Designator and just 3 it or 1 of every hand trap, and then including Maxx C, and they don't want to draw Maxx C because they just want to push their playthrough and they want Maxx C in their deck.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say that I've seen enough Japanese deck lists to know for sure. I feel like in my head, because of how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is right now, where there's special summons so fucking many times, you probably play 3 of Maxx C, but maybe one of the other hand, like the other hand traps you just play. Because here's the other cool thing about Maxx C is that a lot of the time, it's a 1-for-1 trade if your opponent just stops. Like it replaces itself. So, when you Veil or something, like you go down a card and that monster is still there. But when you Maxx C a special summon, like you got a card and then your opponent like probably stopped and then they summoned the monster and then you're like, okay, like you're not down cards is what I'm saying.
Yep.
You're still even on cards. You can even go plus on cards, but I imagine playing 3 Maxx C is just a wave and then you just accept when they cross out Designator you and keep going and kill you. You're like, yep, that's fine.
I'm kind of excited. I'm excited to see what the format does. We'll have some guest on that'll be playing in the format, and maybe we'll see.
We certainly will. Yeah, we'll have people who actually have some field research for us to report on, because right now a lot of it is just speculation and what people think from the OCG. But oftentimes we find out things you see in the OCG don't really hold up in the TCG.
Yeah, it's weird. Their format just has always just panned out differently than ours.
Yeah, like the American players or the TCG players are just different. There's just different mindsets, different deck building styles, different things. Like we just do different stuff. It's not.
I've got
it's never been really the same.
One final question. This has nothing to do with the mechanics. What is Maxx C? I've never been able to figure out what the fuck the card is.
It's a cockroach.
Is it?
It is. So the French version of the card is called Crossout Maxx, and so it's insect, as you can see. Like the type of the card is actually insect.
Yeah.
There's a version of the card that I think blatantly translates to Maxx Cockroach.
Okay.
So it is an actual cockroach. Like that is what Maxx C is. It's a cockroach.
So it's like a cockroach under the stereo or some shit.
Yeah, like I think it's a bunch of them.
Yeah. All those like sparkles, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Let me actually hold on. I want to look up.
That'd be a weird thing to censor. Like, Americans are.
Yeah, I don't think it's really censored. But I did have. So when I played, I had French ones, the Crossout Maxx. And let me see.
Maxx Cockroach.
Okay, if you Google well, I'm not going to say Google it, but like Crossout literally pulled up cockroaches. So when I just like copied that French word and put it into Google, literally cockroach came up. So
there it is.
There it is. Yeah, and that's the only version of the card that I used to play back in the day. But it is, and in Japanese it says multiplying. So instead of max, it's multiplying, like many, I guess. Disgusting. I fucking hate insects. I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Just by the way, as a little side note, there is an insect deck that is out that can search like Maxx C and other hand traps.
Oh my god.
So that's kind of toxic too, but the deck's probably not that good. But just to throw it out there, like there is a deck out there that blatantly searches Maxx C.
What does it search, like a 2-star insect or something?
It might be something as specific as that.
Yeah.
You know how sometimes they. But I think it just searches insect monsters, and it just so happens that a lot of I don't know if you know, but there's like a whole bunch of C's. Like it's not just Maxx C. There's like a Flying C is another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. There's a bunch of different C's, and they're all insects, and it can just search about like Retaliating C is one of them. Retaliating C is broken. It says when your opponent activates a spell card, I think, with the effect to special summon a monster, you can special summon this card to the field, and everything that's sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So it basically is a macrocosmos in monster form. And with so that's already broken. But then it also says when this card is destroyed, you can search your deck for any insect monster, basically.
Stop.
So then it will search Maxx C.
Yeah. That's OD.
I'm going to Google it real quick just to make sure I got the effect right. But Retaliating C says, during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell card that includes an effect to special summon a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. If summoned this way, while this card is face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Earth Insect monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand. So, also broken. Just a very broken ass card. I remember watching McCabe play at locals very recently, like 2 weeks ago. He activated Shaddoll Fusion, and a guy chained Retaliating C. This is game 1, by the way. And at first I was like, oh shit, did this guy pre-side deck from McCabe? Because Retaliating C is a card that you side deck against Shaddolls back in the day.
Yeah.
It's not something that you would main deck. So when he activated it, my initial thought was, wow, this guy like fucking is cheating basically. Like he definitely sided before the match. He was like, oh, I know McCabe plays Shaddolls. I'm gonna Retaliate. See him game 1. And then when McCabe passed his turn or whatever after summoning Winda, the guy drew for turn and started playing all these other insect cards, and I was like, oh, you actually play Retaliating C in a main deck, because one, people play like Red Eyes Fusion anyway, and a bunch of other cards that special summon monsters that are spells. So it's not like crazy to think of somebody Retaliating C you game 1, but it also makes sense because you're playing an insect deck, and this is one of the most broken insects, and it also searches Maxx C and all these other things. So whatever.
Disgusting.
Yeah. But I want to wrap this up. If you guys
Yep.
let us know what you guys think in the comment section about Maxx C and Crossout Designator. Do you guys feel like it should come to 3? Do you think it should stay banned? Do you think it should go for some reason to 2 or 1?
Semi-limited, you know? Semi-limited.
Like, how do you guys feel about this? Also, what do you think the price of Crossout Designator is going to be when it comes out soon? Do you think this is going to be an expensive card? I guess it's really based on like if it's short printed or not, but do you guys think it's going to be very, very...
I guess it depends on whether or not those tins are as unfair as you just said they were.
I'm pretty sure they are. I'm pretty sure that you do not
you
don't just buy tins anymore and just get all the cards. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not how tins work anymore.
Ugh, that's not right.
But yeah, let us know what you guys think, and also like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Follow us on Patreon and all that good stuff. Check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. All right,
everywhere you want.
Yep.
So long.